Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on, everybody? Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. 6 days and a wake-up until we save America, everybody. If you have not gone out and voted early, please do that. Please do that. That is my message of the day. That's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. Also, later in the show, I promised you guys yesterday we were going to do this, and I'm so happy we were able to put it all together. At about 1:30 today, we are going to be joined by America's tenor and the voice of Long Island, Christopher Macchio. For those of you who don't recognize the name, you should. He is the opera singer who has been well known for singing at all the Donald Trump rallies. He sang at the inauguration. He sang at the RNC. He sang at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. And, of course, he sang at Madison Square Garden. Chris is going to be joining us in a little bit. Good friend of the show. Make sure you keep it locked in here for that. Also, Steve Bannon has been released from prison. He is out, and he's got a message for everybody. He hosted War Room this morning. The man doesn't miss a beat, gets out of the can, goes right back to work. Also, the New York Times is going after all of your favorites, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, the Babylon Bee, over election misinformation, despite the fact that the election hasn't happened yet. So a little preemptive nonsense. A little bit of preemptive nonsense. And Joe Rogan drops the beans, drops a dime on Kamala Harris sucking and wanting to skip the interview with him, because it turns out when you make it impossible to do an interview, you can't really say that you were all on board. We're gonna get to all that in just a second. Before we get started, guys, hit that thumbs up button, share the video out all over the place. We are rocking, we are rolling today. AC, how are you? Leanne, how are you? Charlie, how are you? Once again, guys, make sure you keep it locked in here. 1:30, we are going to be joined by America's tenor, Chris Macchio, talking all things how he got involved with President Trump, how he, what it's like to be an out-and-out Republican in the world of opera, which, look, I'm going to be honest with you. When we started the Loud Majority, when we really started getting into podcasts, if you had told me that I was going to be interviewing an opera singer, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So things, sometimes things take a turn. Sometimes they absolutely take a turn. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share this video out all over the place. Hello, Nancy. AV, what's happening? Nancy, how are you? Callie, hello. Moose, how are we doing? How are we doing, guys? Super excited to be here. Once again, keep it locked in here. I know Jeremy went a little bit over, but such is life. Such is life. Masshole Patriot, how is it going? So, let's start off, baby. Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has been released from prison and hosted the War Room this morning. Stephen Bannon was released from the Danbury Federal Prison on Tuesday morning and is set to host the War Room podcast this morning. He will also be holding a press conference later this afternoon in New York. Steve Bannon is a free man, Natalie Winter said, who has been hosting War Room since Bannon was sent to prison. Jack Posobiec announced not only is Bannon out of prison, but he'll be hosting the War Room shortly after his release. Posobiec is expected to join him on air. He was greeted by his daughter Maureen and embraced outside of the facility. Bannon was released from the federal facility at 3:15 in the morning and said, "I'm not broke, I'm empowered." With Election Day only a week away, Bannon expects the election to be contentious after all the votes are cast. If people think American politics has been divisive before, you haven't seen anything, he said to the New York Times. Upon his release, he said, quote, "If you're not prepared to go to prison to fight for your country, then you're not prepared to fight for your country." He was imprisoned after the conviction of contempt of Congress. Of course, him and Peter Navarro seem to be the only two people who have ever gone to jail for that. He denied the subpoena coming from the January 6th committee over executive privilege. Here was Steve Bannon and the way he opened the show this morning.
Just in, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon has been released from prison this morning. He served 4 months in the federal correctional facility in Danbury, Connecticut for contempt of Congress. In 2022, Bannon was convicted on 2 counts for not complying with a House Select Committee subpoena as part of an investigation into January 6th.
Live from New York, the world's financial capital, you're in the war room. It's Tuesday, the 29th of October in the year of our Lord 2024. We're 6 and a wake up away from one of the most important political days in the history of this country. But I want to make sure everybody understands something. And you see from our great staff here, and I'll talk a little bit about the production team and our co-host and, of course, the War Room Posse, all the great efforts you made so that it was next man up. And it's now my turn, right? It's my turn to be next man up, as you guys have done such a magnificent job over the last 4 months. Understand something, and this has to be very clear. The Democrats and those radicals you just saw on MSNBC and CNN and Joe Scarborough and that entire crowd, right? They had Robert Kagan's wife, who brought this entire debacle on Ukraine on us. They have no intention of giving up power. We have a 3-phase, and this is why it's so important for this audience. You're the backbone of this movement. We have 2 things we're going to talk about today. The get out the vote effort, focused on our first phase, which is November 5th. Then the second is to make sure that they cannot steal the election with Mark Elias and others of these, the nullification project that they're bringing in, which goes from November 5th all the way to Inauguration Day, but January 6th being a key part of that. We'll talk about in a second. The other is the delegitimization process. I have never heard, and I think most people would agree, the rhetoric that's come out about American citizens calling this audience, not just Donald Trump and not the people around Donald Trump, that's bad enough, calling us fascists, but calling you fascists, saying that fantastic, that amazing rally in Madison Square Garden that could never be pulled off by Kamala Harris or the Democrats, with that energy and people from Tulsi Gabbard to Elon Musk, just the broad cross-section you had of American entrepreneurs, Vivek Ramaswamy, you had these powerhouses up there, right? And they're trying to besmirch that with one influencer's kind of throwaway, not funny line.
Steve Bannon, of course, not missing a beat whatsoever. Diving right back in. Like Steve says, next man up. What are you willing to do? We continue to promote stuff like that on this show. What are you willing to do? How much are you willing to work? I'll tell you guys right now. I've been telling a couple people this today, a couple people that are in the movement and whatnot. I am beaten up right now. I am physically beaten up. I am mentally beaten up. I am exhausted. I'm shot. The Madison Square Garden rally took everything I had left, but it is the 15th round. It is the bottom of the 9th. It is the 4th quarter right now. And that's when winners win. Winners win when they can push through the adversity. They can push through the hard times. How much more are you willing to give? If you have already started volunteering, how much more volunteering can you do? Facebook memes don't mean shit right now, okay? Shit posting on social media doesn't mean anything right now. How many people are you bringing to the polls? That's what matters right now. That's all that matters right now. Many of the polls right now have got Trump up in Georgia, Trump up in Arizona, Kamala Harris up in Wisconsin. Right now, the aggregate has her slightly up in the popular vote with dead heats in Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. What are you willing to do? Because we are already beginning to see the shenanigans taking hold. We're already beginning to see the nonsense taking hold with ballot boxes going on fire, with misprinting of ballots, with all this crap. What are you willing to do? I'm not going to stop, like Steve Bannon said, 6 days and a wake up. If you haven't gotten involved yet, what are you waiting for? Because if You wait for someone else to save you. No one is coming. No one is coming. We'll be back in 1 second.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog bed.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So we're already beginning to see these shenanigans going on all over the country with the New York Times targeting Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, the Babylon Bee, and Tim Pool over election misinformation. Of course, election information that hasn't happened yet because the election hasn't happened yet. Prominent YouTubers are getting some of the calls that some are calling threats from the New York Times. That would be Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee, Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and Tim Pool, all reported to X that they had been contacted by the New York Times' Nico Grant. The message began, "Good day. I am Nico Grant, a reporter at the New York Times, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on the upcoming article that takes a look at how political commentators are discussing the election on YouTube. We rely on an analysis conducted by researchers at the Media Matters for America, which is a John Podesta-funded, Clinton-backed nonsense organization that goes after some of your favorite podcast hosts. In fact, Media Matters is currently facing a lawsuit from Attorney General Andrew Bailey to force the nonprofit to turn over documents related to Bailey's investigation into fraudulent business practices. Bailey claims that Media Matters for America solicited donations from Missourians under false pretense to target X, formerly of Twitter, in direct violation of Missouri's Merchandising Practices Act. Elon Musk's social media platform is suing Media Matters of America as well. He asked, "Could you kindly provide us with comment or decline to comment by the end of the day tomorrow?" Grant, we're gonna read you this article when it comes out. Grant continues to ask. He goes on to let the recipients know what he is planning on in his report. It said Media Matters for America identified 286 YouTube videos between May and August that contained election misinformation, including narratives that have been debunked or not supported with credible evidence. Researchers identified videos posted by you in the 4 months that contain election misinformation. They then request further information about the YouTuber's relationship with YouTube, asking, "Are you a member of the YouTube Partner Program? If so, how frequently does YouTube demonetize your videos?" First off, if you call me and ask me about my income, you can blow that right out your ass. That's number one. Number two, I wonder if they're sending any of these videos to the Young Turks or to Pod Save America or to CNN or to MSNBC asking about, I don't know, did YouTube demonetize any of your videos saying that masks work or that the vaccine was safe and effective or that Jesse Smollett got jumped by a bunch of white guys? Probably not. But just showing you that Media Matters for America is being used as the conduit as to what is true and what is false just shows you that bit of nonsense. And as usual, every single day, we are continuing to get more and more nonsense. Tucker Carlson later went on to reply, "So the New York Times is working with a left-wing hate group to silence critics of the Democratic Party. Please ask yourself why you are participating in this. Is this why you got into journalism? It's shameful. I hope you're filled with guilt and self-loathing for sending me a text like this. Please quote me. Grant replied asking if Carlson would like to provide answers to the questions he posed. Tucker responded with, "No thanks, but I do hope you'll quote what I said above. Also note that I told you to fuck off," which I am doing now. Thank you. I love Tucker. I just love Tucker Carlson. Ben Shapiro had a similar sentiment, but he insisted on replying directly to Grant. He put out a lengthy thread on X saying, "What precisely is the New York Times doing? It's perfectly obvious. Using research from Media Matters, a left-wing radical organization whose sole purpose is to destroy conservative media. 1 week out from an election. That's the entire game here. Run an article in America's most trusted newspaper that declares pretty much every conservative a purveyor of misinformation on YouTube, thus strong-arm YouTube into taking actions against conservatives." As for his comment to the New York Times, it was remarkably similar to Carlson's. So the New York Times wants a comment. Here's my comment. Kindly go fuck yourselves. Or in the words of Elon Musk,
go fuck yourself. But go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
Look, normally I don't use that kind of language, but 6 days and a wake up left. If you're not ready for what's coming, I don't know what to tell you. And also, I'm just quoting them. That's all I'm doing. But how exactly are we supposed to trust an election when we're already seeing stuff like this?
We want to talk about problems printing ballots in Nevada County. With 12 days until Election Day, officials there are working around the clock to try and fix this situation.
Your reporter covering Nevada County, Kayla Mueller, is live for us in front of the elections office, getting answers on what's being done about this, Kayla.
Well, Marley and Hunter, the Nevada County elections first realized something was wrong on Monday. The next day they diagnosed the problem, but the error is specific to vote by mail ballots. However, they aren't quite sure exactly how many of the 77,000 issued ballots are affected, but they do have a plan to rescan the ones that are.
That a lot of the public is very nervous about the process, about the results.
A vote-by-mail ballot error has some Nevada County residents concerned. County elections realized something was wrong on Monday. Their machines weren't properly reading all the ballots. They called the Secretary of State and their printing service and diagnosed the issue as an ink overspray on some of the barcodes.
Some of our ballots, if you look really closely and you use a magnifying glass, you will see that there is imperfections in the barcodes.
I want to show you what these ballots look like. If you take a look here, we're covering some private information, but the one on the left has already been processed. The problem is with these barcodes, and the one on the right needs to be rescanned. But as you can see, they look very similar.
We will go ahead and use a report to see, okay, which pages did not go through. We'll pull those out, and we mark them as to be rescanned. So we have a different bin, we have a different colored piece of paper that sort of makes it really clear.
Election officials say the printer error will not affect the accuracy, but it will slow down their operations. They'll be working around the clock to certify the election results on time.
I trust the process.
And for those who are more skeptical, anyone is allowed to observe the process in person or online through a live stream. Look, there's me in the counting room waving. I reached out to Runbeck Election Services, who supply the ballots, and they said in a statement in part, "We are coordinating directly with the Nevada County Elections Office and the Secretary of State to ensure that all affected ballots can be properly reviewed and counted. While this issue is rare, it can happen due to the required use of inkjet technology for the printing of such a large quantity of ballots."
We care very much about getting it right. Not just because it's a presidential election, but we care about every election and making sure that the process is accurate, that it's transparent.
I don't know how we can't figure out counting. It's like sixth grade crap. Use your fingers and use your toes if you have to. This is not complicated stuff. How are we supposed to have any sort of confidence in this election when this sort of nonsense is continuing to go on? How? I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it. Guys, before we move on today, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Share it out, share it out, share it out. Guys, before we keep going today, did you vote for this recession? No, of course you didn't, but you sure as heck are paying for it. And now we know that financial stress is absolutely killing you. The solution is donewithdebt.com. Unlike others, Done With Debt created new and aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or costly loans. Done With Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest rates, and stop all the costly penalties. The best news is that Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now, but you need to hurry because some of their debt relief strategies are incredibly time sensitive. Guys, go to donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054. That's 1-888-322-1054 to chat with one of their debt relief specialists today. That is donewithdebt.com. Guys, check it out today. Get out of debt permanently. Donewithdebt.com. So, as I said, guys, I'm super excited to be joined by Long Island native. You guys all know who he is at this point. I mean, I've played enough of his clips on the show. But just in case you guys don't know who Christopher Macchio is, he is America's Tenor. We played the video yesterday of him singing New York, New York at Madison Square Garden at the Donald Trump rally. Here he is at inauguration, and we're going to be joined by him in just a second. Check this out. Alrighty, guys, we are back. I'm super excited. Obviously, you guys know I have played this man's work numerous times here on this show, from the inauguration of President Trump in 2016 to the RNC this year, and most recently at the legendary Madison Square Garden rally. Everybody, please say hello to America's Tenor, and as I'm calling him, the voice of Long Island, Chris Macchio. Chris, how's it going, man?
Everything's great. Everything's absolutely fantastic. Poll numbers are looking great, and I'm excited.
So, obviously, the big story with you is your incredible voice and how you have sort of become the voice of all Republican events. You were in Butler, Pennsylvania, with the president. You're at the RNC. You were at our home, the Cathedral of Sport, Madison Square Garden. So, the question, the first question I've got is how does someone get into President Trump's radar? I mean, obviously you're an incredible singer, but
Right.
like, how do you become basically the go-to guy for the closings of all of these events?
Well, the first time I had the privilege of meeting then Donald Trump, before the politics, I actually was introduced by a member at Mar-a-Lago, and Elton John had canceled for New Year's Eve. And I literally received a call at 9:30 at night on December 30th asking me to jump on the next flight to Palm Beach first thing in the morning on the 31st, New Year's Eve, to perform for 1,000 people assembled at at Donald Trump's New Year's Eve party. And so I flew. I got my ticket right then and there on my phone, and I flew the next morning and did a sound check, and I had the privilege of performing for 1,000 people there, and he thought my voice was absolutely magnificent. He got on the microphone and told the whole audience as much, and he then took me over to the table of none other than Rod Stewart, and Rod Stewart had me sing the following week at his 70th birthday party, and all this Hollywood celebrities and so forth. And then he ended up going into the political arena, and he was focused on being president, and I was singing across Europe and across North America. And in that during that time, I ended up singing for a couple of charities that were run by his brother Robert. And unfortunately, in August of 2020, we lost Robert to an accident, a medical issue that occurred, and so his lovely widow Anne Marie called me before the news had even broken on CNN and asked me to perform at the funeral. And De Blasio, the mayor at that time, put the kibosh on having it in the city because of COVID, whatever. And so we moved it to the East Room of the White House. I sang for this funeral. I had as my keyboardist none other than Jonathan Cain from Journey, the keyboardist songwriter. And it was a wonderful tribute to Robert's life. And in the middle of that funeral, the president jumped up and gave me a standing ovation during a rendition of the Lord's Prayer. And afterwards, he asked me, first he compared my voice to Pavarotti, and he asked me, who do you think is better, you or Pavarotti? And I said, well, Pavarotti will always be number one. And he said, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's just you and him and nobody else. And he looked at Lara and he said, get Christopher's information. I want him to perform at the RNC from the balcony of the White House. And so it was from that moment on that I ended up performing at all of these political functions and also some very personal occasions and private events for the Trump family. And it's really been such a privilege that the president would see fit to provide me a forum and share my voice that he has told me he appreciates so much, and share that with the world. And it's just a wonderful thing.
That is extraordinary. I mean, I think filling in for Elton John would have been enough for me right there. Everything else on top of that seems just extra. Hey, can you come fill in for Elton John real quick? I gotta, believe me, of all these skills in the world that I think many people wish they had, the ability to sing is definitely up there. So, and just to see,
I'm very lucky. I consider myself very fortunate. I like to tell people sometimes that, believe it or not, I was a very introverted nerd when I was in school, very cerebral academic. And I anticipated a life consisting mostly of donning a white lab coat and being in a basement laboratory somewhere, or maybe practicing as an academic attorney or something like that. And when I was told that I had this gift, this voice, I was, my chorus director was the one that discovered it. He said, Christopher, you have a gift given by God and an obligation to share that gift. And it's just been my privilege to do so. And I don't take credit for the voice itself. If I were blessed to be 8 feet tall, I could dunk a basketball downward instead of up, and it wouldn't even have to jump. And in the case of my voice, I was given this instrument. And what I take credit for is just having developed and cultivated the disposition to deliver and share it in as full and as heartfelt a way as I possibly can, and evoke the maximum impact and emotion in the crowd. And people come to me from all walks of life with misty-eyed, tears in their eyes. We just did the rally in Butler, and of course, at the very last moment, the president had the inspired idea to pay tribute to Corey Compratore, in particular with a rendition from me of Ave Maria. And that was a last minute inspiration. He already knew he was going to recognize Corey and his family, but at the last moment he said, I've got such a wonderful resource right here at my disposal. Let's have Christopher perform Ave Maria. And he told me that 15 minutes before he took the stage to give his speech. And I had to scramble to make sure that we could do it and find the musical track for it. We can't even have a band around the president because of Secret Service issues. So we have to use pre-recorded music for all that kind of stuff. And of course, in particular, Butler was really, really on lockdown because, as you know, that was where the attempted assassination of him had occurred and where Corey unfortunately lost his life. So it was a really solemn moment for everybody. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of emails, thousands of emails that I got from all around the world attesting to that. Now, I was really privileged to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And, I got to assume, and perhaps I'm assuming wrong, in your line of work in opera, it is not very right wing as with many of the arts. I could be wrong, but it would seem as though it's you may be on an island to yourself here.
A little bit. I've been fortunate to come across a few like-minded individuals that have a more traditional sensibility, both artistically, aesthetically, and in terms of their moral code and character. So it's definitely an issue to have the people that you interact with professionally focus on the music and focus on the merits of your talent and your chops, as they say in the industry, and leave the politics, at the door. And I can say with certainty and with confidence that I have no problem whatsoever walking onto the stage and making wonderful, beautiful music with anyone that might hold completely opposite views from myself. And I have no problem with that. People are entitled to their worldview and their opinions. And I just do find it unfortunate that there are other people, other artists that don't share that philosophy. And they feel that if you don't agree with them on issues that they consider to be important, that, then you're not somebody that they want to do business with, that they want to make beautiful music with. And I just think that's unfortunate, but that is the reality. I'm probably less than 5% of the opera world shares my philosophy on certain things. And I just have to deal with that as best I can.
Absolutely. And, I say this to everybody in every industry now, is that it is starting to become more culturally, more socially acceptable to come out and say you are a Trump supporter, a Republican, whether you're an actor, whether you're a musician, anything in those areas, whether you're an athlete. We saw Nick Bosa of the 49ers the other night come out, do a press conference wearing his Trump hat, and starting to see that sort of cultural swing where we wouldn't have traditionally seen that before. And the more people speak out, I think it gives more freedom, more license to other people to just be themselves and to not be this sort of, as we say, the silent majority, but in fact, be the loud majority.
Well, you know what it is too. A lot of times, the conventional wisdom was, that you don't really talk about politics in the public forum unless you are a politician, and people kind of just really didn't bring these issues up in the first place. And I think that concurrently with the ebbing of people's religiosity and faith in this country, that has been replaced. That people used to be publicly demonstrative of their faith, and now that has been replaced with their politics, unfortunately. And so naturally, people who are lacking in faith, they do tend to a more liberal mindset, and that now becomes their religion. And then so they have this desire to publicly proclaim and virtue signal their their liberal beliefs for everybody to see, and that somehow fills some kind of void. Perhaps can only opine on that, but like you said, now I think we have seen the zenith of that whole that whole dynamic, and I think now we're very fortunate to have people coming out and saying enough is enough, and I am going to proclaim, my values and my conservative disposition. And it does, in fact, give space and courage and inspiration to others to do likewise.
Absolutely.
And, it's a beautiful thing to witness. And then maybe we'll actually get back to a point where we can leave politics at home and in the ballot box and just be united citizens, enjoying one another's company and making beautiful music and going to some ball games.
Absolutely. That would, I think that a lot of people would like to get back to that sort of time. So look, a couple nights ago at the Garden, local guy.
Last night.
Yeah. At the Garden, the King of New York, at our home court, you come out singing New York, New York. What is that like? Is that like, is that the pinnacle? Because to me, he finished it off with New York, New York. It was like, leaving a Yankee game. That's how they ended every game. To me, it just, the love fest and the symbolism of that was just so poignant to me.
I got to be honest. The way it unfolded, I had suggested, you don't usually. It's not like I pick up the phone and the president is answering my call directly. It's there are intermediaries that to themselves in between you and him. Mm-hmm. So the team, as they're known as, they had asked me to submit a list of materials, and then they selected what they thought was going to be best. And I had actually suggested New York, New York. And they told me, no, this is what the team wants. And then, as I've experienced before with President Trump, at the last minute, he took a close look at exactly what was going to unfold, and he said, "You know what? Forget those other songs. I want to do New York, New York." And I said, "All right, let's do it." And so it was a last minute inspiration on his part, but something that I was hoping for all along. And like you said, I tweeted out, and my Twitter is at Chris Macchio, by the way, ChrisMacchio. I tweeted out right beforehand. I said, it is one of the highest privileges of my life to sing the most iconic song in the most iconic city for the most iconic hero in American history. And so it was just such an epic, historic moment for me to walk out onto that catwalk singing New York, New York for our president and our first lady. And the crowd joined in, and the president even joined in a little bit. And he was he loved it. He really loved it. He loves, that over the top showmanship. And when you just put out that big energy to a crowd like that, that's what he lives for. One of the things he lives for. And I was just so privileged to facilitate an experience like that for everybody.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I'm a huge believer in moments, and that moments not only capture political events, but really capture life. And last night, as I said, local guy, MSG, Donald Trump, with New York, it was just absolutely perfect. So, Chris, where can everybody follow you? Where can they support you? Let the people know, because I know that everyone's a fan. So I know people are going to want to.
I appreciate that. I'm privileged to have that. And my website is my full name, ChristopherMacchio.com. I don't know if you have a space to put that. Mm-hmm. And the main thing right now these days is Twitter and Instagram. Both handles are Chris Macchio, ChrisMacchio. And as many people as I can get on those two platforms, I will be a happy man to be able to connect with and share my music and this journey that I'm on right now with all the fans out there and all the patriotic Americans out there. It's a blessing.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on, and shout out to Nicole Gargiulo for putting all this together.
She and I went to the music conservatory together. I love her, and I hope to see both of you.
Absolutely, my boss. I do what she says. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you. Take care.
Alrighty, guys, we will be right back. Guys, I want to thank Chris Macchio for sitting down with us. I hope you guys all enjoyed that. In the comments, in the description of this video, are all of Chris's social media handles. Guys, give him a follow on Instagram. Give him a follow on X. Look, the man's got a voice of an angel, and I mean that in the absolute most heterosexual way possible. Guys, before we keep rocking and rolling here today, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out. All over the place. Share it out. Giddy up. Let's go. Tag a friend in the comments. Thumbs up. What'd you guys think of the interview? Let's pop this live chat up onto the screen. Share it out. Make sure you guys share it out everywhere. What's up, Vintage Lulu Gal? How are you? R-Star, what's happening? Diane Hernandez, how are you? Cindy, what's going on? Jackie saying hello to everybody in the Facebook chat. Sly, how is it going? Let's see. What do we got? Joanne, how are you? Sherry Welch, what's going on? We got a couple more stories that I do want to get to today. Once again, guys, 6 days and a wake up before Election Day. So, Kevin, is Chris related to Ralph? No, he is not. He is not related to Ralph Macchio. Although, no, he's not. It was pretty funny. Angel Grandma, how are you? What's going on? Make sure you guys go follow Chris on X. Let him know that we sent you. He's a hell of a guy. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Somebody else who's a hell of a guy is Joe Rogan, which we're going to get to in 1 second. Before we do that, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That is your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFA-TV related. Guys, check out the LFA-TV store. That is the best way to support this network and everything we've got going on over here. We cannot do it without your help. This is user-generated content, and I promise you, after Election Day, we're only going to get bigger and better than ever before. So head on over to lfatv.us and consider becoming a monthly donor over there today. That's lfatv.us. So Joe Rogan, following his amazing interview with Donald Trump, which of course YouTube is now censoring, would that be part of the election misinformation that you're talking about? Media Matters for America? Well, I don't really care. Following that, Joe Rogan said that he had plans to sit down with Kamala Harris. However, he said that she only wanted to do a 1-hour interview and for Joe to come to her. At which point Joe Rogan laughed, considering Joe doesn't have to go anywhere for anybody. Joe Rogan has clarified the reasons that Vice President Harris has not appeared on his podcast like Donald Trump did last week, saying the Harris camp would like him to travel elsewhere from the studio, only have a 1-hour time frame, even though his podcast typically lasts 3 hours. After Google was accused of suppressing the podcast with Trump, he responded to clarify why the Democratic nominee has not appeared on the show. He said, for the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on the podcast. They offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have had to travel to her and only wanted to do an hour interview. Look, Joe is obviously being diplomatic about this, but there are parameters to do somebody's show. Joe Rogan does his show in his studio for 3 hours. That's the setup. It's every episode. Every single episode. If Joe Rogan calls me, and I'm like, Joe, I'd love to do your show, but can you fly to New York and do it in my studio instead? And then we'll just like pass the content over. That's not how this works. It's not how this works. So obviously Joe is being very diplomatic about this. The podcast with Trump has 37 million views on YouTube alone, not counting the views across other social media platforms and the clips from the show. It has been rumored that Harris was in talks with the podcast host, who consistently holds the top streamed podcast in America. Founder of Turning Point USA also responded to the announcement, saying America deserves 3 hours with Kamala Harris and Joe Rogan unscripted. Hope it happens, and she stops trying to dictate her terms. You have a format, it works. She should stop trying to change it, just like America. Many have suggested that Harris is only putting out the conditions on the show in order to make it seem as though Harris was not dodging the interview completely, but wanted to appear as Rogan was shutting down the interview. Some experienced difficulty finding the YouTube episode in the days following the Trump episode release when they searched on the video platform. Instead, many would get a range of coverage from different media outlets, YouTube channels, according to the New York Post. So YouTube continues to suppress the Joe Rogan-Donald Trump interview, and that's because it went so well. Luckily for everyone else involved, soon there's going to be another one that's probably going to break the internet, maybe not at the level of 35, 36, 37 million, but soon there may be another one. Before that, try Armra.
The biggest benefit, honestly, has been with my skin. Skin was more hydrated, more radiant.
This is the best superfood that you could take.
It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Armra colostrum. It is amazing.
You gotta take it.
If you want to try it, try armra.com.
Guys, head on over to tryarmor.com/LFATV. That's tryarmor.com/LFATV to get 15% off and free shipping. Guys, try the superfood formula today over at tryarmor.com/LFATV. So, when opportunity knocks, you take it. In the wake of Kamala Harris declining the Joe Rogan interview, J.D. Vance says he'll go on it. The Republican senator and Republican vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, is set to record an episode with Joe Rogan tomorrow morning. The Vance-Rogan interview will be recorded just 5 days after Rogan had former President Trump on, which quickly generated the tens of millions. The Guardian reported that two people with direct knowledge of the matter said Vance will sit down with Rogan as scheduled for 9 a.m. Wednesday. Rogan's podcast episodes are usually uploaded to Spotify and YouTube a few hours after that's finished. Vance will go on the Joe Rogan Experience as Kamala Harris's interview continues. As Vice President Harris's team continues to push for an interview with the most listened to podcast, the date offered on Tuesday, he would have to travel to her. We just went over that. So J.D. Vance is sitting there saying, look, if Kamala Harris won't do it, I will. When opportunity strikes, one must take it. One must take it. Luckily, on the election integrity front, we've got one more story that we've got to get to before we wrap up today. Very, very good. Very, very good stuff. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this program. You guys can use promo code LFA to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code LFA to get 20% off everything on the website, guys. Go to loudmajorityusa.com. So as we roll up into the election, Virginia appeals to the Supreme Court to prevent the Biden-Harris administration from forcing them to let non-citizens vote in the presidential election. Virginia has filed an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court after a judge appointed by Joe Biden ordered the state to put non-citizens back on its voter rolls right before the 2024 presidential election. The decision by U.S. District Court Judge Patricia Gillis was maintained by a federal appeals court on Sunday, so Governor Youngkin decided to shift the legal focus to the Supreme Court. Youngkin's lawyers told the federal appeals court that the lower court injunction against Virginia taking non-citizens off the voter rolls had no basis in law and would create electoral chaos before the election. The three-judge panel on the appeals court were unanimous in rejecting Virginia's using data of the State Department of Motor Vehicles to remove non-citizens during the 90-day quiet period before the election. They say it violated the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, and that Virginia authorities, quote, remain able to prevent non-citizens from voting by canceling registrations on an individual basis or prosecuting any non-citizens who vote. So basically what they're saying is that Virginia can stop people from voting who shouldn't be voting by prosecuting them afterwards. That's like leaving the vault open in a bank and saying, don't worry, we'll just get them later. And it's not so much about the non-citizens actually voting. It's about U.S. citizens taking advantage of the fact that non-citizens are on the voter rolls and then using their names in order to cast illegal ballots. That's what people are concerned about. I say Glenn Youngkin just tells them to go kick rocks and keeps them off the ballot entirely. Flip Virginia, giddy up, let's go. We call the election by 9:30. That's what I say. That's what I say Governor Youngkin does. Because if Governor Youngkin does that, I can promise you in 2028, we'll be calling him President Youngkin. Guys, we're going to wrap up today. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Make sure you go follow Chris Macchio over on all of the social medias. All of the links are in the description of this video, guys. Check that out. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Ryan Mata is coming up next right here on this network. Until tomorrow, everybody, stay loud.